They say death is the end, but sometimes it refuses to let go. Sometimes it lingers, in a stitch, a thread, or something left unfinished. This is the tale of the stitch of death, the seamstress of Hollow End. There was a forgotten town, Hollow End, a place so quiet, even the wind seemed afraid to speak. At the edge of it stood a small, decaying tailor shop, Marrow and Stitch. Its wooden sign creaked endlessly, swaying like a bone in the breeze. No one went inside, and those who did never stayed the same again. The shop belonged to Evelyn Marrow, an elderly seamstress known for her flawless work. Her stitches never broke, her fabrics never tore, her garments looked almost alive. But the people whispered something darker. That Evelyn didn't just sew clothes, she sewed souls. The arrival. One stormy afternoon, a young fashion designer named Clara Hensley arrived in Hollow End. She was ambitious, arrogant, desperate for inspiration to outshine her rivals. At the inn, she overheard an old man talking about Marrow and Stitch. He spoke of dresses that moved like they were breathing, and eyes that watched from within the fabric. Curiosity and vanity drove her there. The bell above the shop door gave a dull metallic chime as she entered. The air was thick, heavy with the scent of old cloth, candle wax, and something faintly metallic. Blood. Behind the counter sat Evelyn, her gray hair tied neatly, her posture perfect, her gaze piercing, her smile slow but unsettling. Evelyn, welcome, dear. Looking for something to wear or something to remember? Clara, laughing, I heard you make dresses that tell stories. I want one for my next show. Evelyn, stories. My favorite kind of stitching. Evelyn led her to the back room. It was dim, lit only by flickering candles. Dozens of gowns hung on mannequins, crimson, pearl, black. Each one shimmered faintly, as if a pulse ran through the fabric. The offer. Evelyn, each dress I make holds a soul. I only sew when the thread calls to me. Clara, smirking, I don't believe in that nonsense. I just want something unique. Evelyn, oh, this will be unique. But remember, the thread chooses the wearer. She opened a small wooden drawer. Inside lay a spool of black thread, gleaming like polished obsidian. The air around it grew cold. Evelyn, softly. This thread was spun from the fibers of death itself. Once it's used, it never comes undone. Clara laughed, brushing it off as an old woman's theatrics. She paid Evelyn in advance and demanded the gown be ready before her grand showcase. Evelyn nodded, but as Clara laughed, Evelyn's lips moved in a whisper only the walls could hear. Another soul for the weave. The thread that breathed. Rain swallowed Hollow End for the next 3 nights. Every night, the light in Marrow and Stitch stayed on, long after midnight. Inside, Evelyn worked tirelessly, her fingers moving faster than humanly possible. Her lips moved, murmuring to the black thread in a strange, rhythmic tone, almost like a lullaby. If someone had listened closely outside, they might have heard the thread whispering back. When the gown was done, Evelyn wrapped it carefully in black paper, her hands trembling. Evelyn, do not wear it until the moon is full, and when you do, make sure your heart is at peace. Clara, grinning, you really make it sound like witchcraft. Evelyn, quietly, oh, child, it's worse than witchcraft. It's memory. The fashion show. A week later, the gallery lights glowed bright over a glittering crowd. Clara stood backstage, holding the black gown. The fabric felt strangely warm, as if alive. She dismissed the thought, slipped it on, and walked onto the stage. Gasps filled the room. The gown shimmered like liquid shadow, black with silver veins that shimmered under the spotlight. But as the lights dimmed for dramatic effect, the silver threads began to move. Not like fabric, like veins, pulsing. Clara's smile faltered. She felt a prick on her chest, then another at her wrist. Tiny, sharp stings, like needles piercing from the inside out. The dress was tightening, breathing. She tried to scream, but her voice didn't come out. The thread wound around her throat, pulling tighter. The audience thought it was part of the act. They clapped. They cheered. Then the lights flickered, and for a heartbeat, everyone saw faces pressing out from the fabric. Screaming, distorted, trapped. When the lights came back, Clara was gone. Only the gown stood on stage, upright, smiling. Back to Hollow End. A month later, Marrow and Stitch reopened. In the window stood a new mannequin, wearing the black gown. Its face looked familiar. younger, softer. Clara's face. The villagers whispered again. They said Evelyn hadn't aged in decades, that every few years, a new customer came and never left. One night, a thief broke into the shop, hoping to steal the mysterious dress. He was never seen alive again. The next morning, the police found him inside, entangled in black thread, his eyes sewn shut, mouth twisted in terror. And in the corner, the black spool of thread was spinning by itself. The truth unravels. Decades passed. Marrow and Stitch eventually closed. Evelyn Marrow vanished, without a trace. But an old record revealed her past. She had once been a nurse in World War II, known for stitching wounds no one else could save. Rumor said she learned a forbidden technique from a dying soldier, to bind life with thread. But she misunderstood it. It didn't heal. It trapped. Every time she used the black thread, a piece of her own soul fused into her work. And those she sewed became part of her. That's how she stayed young. That's how she lived on. The new seamstress. Years later, a new designer, Rhea Hart, bought the abandoned shop. She wanted to restore its legacy. When she explored the back room, she found an old sewing machine and a dusty drawer. Inside it, the same black spool of thread. Rhea, whispering, "Perfect. This will make my collection legendary." That night, she stayed late, stitching under dim light. The air grew heavy, the shadows deepened. Then she heard it, a faint whisper right behind her ear. "You shouldn't have touched my thread." The sewing machine started on its own. The needle moved furiously, even without fabric. Rhea screamed as black thread shot across her hands, piercing through her skin, pulling her fingers together like puppet strings. When she looked up, she saw her reflection in the mirror. But it wasn't her. It was Evelyn Marrow, smiling back. The stitch of death. They say Marrow and Stitch still exists, hidden deep in the woods near Hollow End. No map shows it, but on full moon nights, if you listen closely, you can hear the faint hum of a sewing machine. Steady, patient, eternal. Some say you can see a figure inside, sewing silently in the dark, her needle flashing, her hands trembling. And beside her, the spool of black thread glimmers faintly, as if it's breathing. On the shelf, there's an old tag that reads, "Clara, the stitch of death." So next time you find an old spool of thread, or a needle lying where it doesn't belong, don't touch it, because not every stitch is meant to heal. Some stitches are meant to hold you forever.